Hi, I'm Destiny from Nifty Knittings, and today I'm going to walk you through the steps for how to knit the Juniper Shawl. It's a top-down crescent-shaped shawl which starts with a garter tab cast on in just a few stitches, and then increases are placed along both sides to form the crescent shape. The body is knit in stockinette, and once the body is finished we will cast on some extra stitches for the edging, which will be knit back and forth. So first I'm going to walk you through the steps for the garter tab cast on. I'm using a chunkier yarn, so hopefully you can see a little bit better than you can with fingering weight yarn. So first we're going to long tail cast on 3 stitches. So I'm just making a slip knot. I'm going to place that on my needle and then cast on 2 more stitches. Okay, and then we're just going to knit 4 rows, just in garter stitch. Here's 1. 2. 3. And 4. So once you have your 4 rows, we're going to turn our work 90 degrees, and we'll be picking up 1 stitch in this garter ridge on the edge right here. But before we do that, we're going to yarn over. So basically we're just going to bring the yarn to the front and then pick up 1 stitch in this garter bump here. Pick up and knit the 1 stitch. Then we're going to yarn over again, and then we're going to pick up and knit 3 stitches along our cast on edge. So right where we cast on 3 stitches, we're going to pick up those 3 stitches. There's 1. My tail's in the way here. 2. I need 1 more in here. Oops, get back here. And there's 3. So it doesn't look like much right now, but our shawl will basically expand from the edges here, and this will make a nice seamless garter edging. Okay. So once you have your stitches picked up, you should have 9 stitches on your needle. And then we're going to start the first row of the shawl, which is the wrong side row. So the edge stitches on both sides are knit and garter stitch. So we're just going to knit 3. And for the wrong side row, we'll knit 3, we'll yarn over and purl until we have 3 stitches left, and then we'll yarn over again and knit 3 for the other 3 edge stitches. You can place markers along the edge stitches if you like. I found for myself they just kind of get in the way, and I can usually remember when I just have 3 edge stitches. Okay, make sure this is focused here. And then for the right side rows, we're going to knit 3, keeping our edge stitches in garter stitch. And then we are going to knit 1, yarn over, knit 1 in this next stitch. This stitch is the yarn over from the previous row. So we're going to go into knit the stitch, but don't slip this off the needle yet. We're going to bring our yarn to the front to yarn over and knit the stitch again. So we're increasing 2 stitches there. And then we're just going to knit until we have 4 stitches left. And that's our yarn over from the previous row again. And we're going to do the same thing again. Knit, yarn over, knit. So we're going to go into knit, keep this loop on the needle, yarn over, and knit it again and off the needle. So we increase 2 more stitches there. So every right side row will be increasing 4 stitches. Every wrong side row will be increasing 2 stitches. So just keep repeating those 2 rows until you have 299 stitches, and then we'll start the edging. For the edging, we'll be doing an applied border. So basically we've been knitting this direction with our shawl, and now we are going to cast on an extra 28 stitches to the end of the body and knit this direction back and forth. So at the end of each right side row, we'll be binding off 1 live shawl stitch. So I'm going to walk you through the first few rows just to walk through each different technique that's used and how to make these nupps here. Okay, so I have a mini shawl sample here. Let me zoom in. Okay, so I'm working on a little mini shawl. I'm going to pretend that I have 299 stitches, even though I do not. Maybe a little too far. And we are going to cable cast on 28 stitches. For a cable cast on, we'll be going in between the first and the second stitch, not into the first stitch, but in between them. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit better. Okay, so here's our first 2 stitches. It's such small yarn, so it's hard to see. So my needle is in between the stitches, and then I'm going to wrap the yarn around as if to knit, pull that loop through, and then twist my right needle, and going under with my left, place that loop on the needle. So I'll show you that several more times. So that was 1 stitch, kind of twist the right needle and go under with the left and put that loop on the needle. So then for the next stitch, we'll go in between the one we just cast on and the next one and do the same thing again. You could also do a knitted cast on. It's the same idea. I just like the edge that the cable cast on gives. So we're going in between the stitch, bringing the yarn around to knit, and placing it on the needle. Okay, I have my extra 28 stitches for the edging cast on, and now I'm going to work from the chart. You could also work from the written directions as well. So first, we are just going to knit 3 stitches, purl 1, we're going to knit 5, and then knit 2 stitches together, knit 3, yarn over, and we're about to purl, so to yarn over we'll just wrap the yarn around like so, and then purl 2, yarn over again, and knit 3, oops, 2, 3, and then we're going to slip, slip, knit, slip the first stitch knitwise, slip the second stitch knitwise, and then bring your left needle back through the front of both of those stitches and knit them together, and knit 5, purl 1, and then we're going to slip the next stitch knitwise, knit one, and then pass that slip stitch over. So essentially we're binding off one stitch there. And then we're going to turn our work. We're just working the edge stitches here. And every wrong side row will be the same. We're going to slip that first stitch purlwise, knit one, purl 10. Let me fix my cable here. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. We're going to knit 2 and purl 10 again. And then we're going to knit 1, purl 1, and then for these last 2 stitches we're just going to slip them purlwise. And we're going to make kind of a, it'll turn into a bit of an I-cord selvaged edge, which gives a nice weight to the shawl. You can kind of see it a little bit here in this one. It just gives a nice pretty edge to the bottom of our edging. Okay, so that was row 2. Row 3, we're going to knit 3, purl 1, knit 4, we're going to knit 2 stitches together, knit 1, and then we're going to make a noop. So if you are familiar with that, you can do that however you are most comfortable. I found with such small yarn and so many stitches that I really prefer to use a small crochet hook to help. I'm using a 2.0, this tiny end of this crochet hook, 2.0 millimeter. So for the noop, we are going to create 7 stitches where there are 1, where there's just 1. So in this next stitch, we are going to go into it to knit, but keep that loop on the needle, yarn over. You don't want to do this too tightly or too loosely. Going to knit it again, yarn over. So now we're up to 4 stitches. We need 7. We're going to knit again, yarn over, and knit one more time. So now I have 7 stitches where there was 1. Now you can either transfer them to your left needle and then knit them all together. I found that was really tough for me, so I am just going to use this crochet hook. What I like to do is make sure I have all 7 together, make sure none of the loops are twisted over each other, and then I'm just going to pinch with 2 fingers at the base of all 7 noops and slide my needle out, and then just slide that tiny crochet hook right through all 7, like so. And this might take some practice, so you might want to practice on some scrap yarn first, and then just bring your yarn, hook the yarn and bring it through all 7, and then place that loop on your right needle. And there's your noop. Then we're going to knit the next stitch, and after I knit the next stitch, I like to pull, kind of pop the noop out there a little bit and then tighten up that stitch. And then we're going to yarn over, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, Then we're going to make one more loop. So same as before, we're making 7 stitches. We're going to knit, yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit. How many is that? That's 5, here's 6, and 7. So then I just separate those 7 stitches from the rest of my shawl stitches, pinch them at the bottom, slide my needle out, and slide my crochet hook right through, then wrap the yarn around and pull it through, and then place that loop on the needle. Then we're going to knit 1, kind of pop that loop back through, slip, slip, knit, knit 4, purl 1, slip this stitch knitwise, knit 1, and then pass the slip stitch over. And then I do one more little trick on the wrong side just to close up the gap that kind of naturally happens when you have a loop. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'll slip this first stitch purlwise, knit 1, and then we're going to purl until we get to that loop, which will be pretty easy to see. Okay, here's my loop. You can tell by the big cluster of stitches there. I'm just going to slip it to my right needle just for a moment. And then I'm going to pick up the bar between the next stitches from the front to the back, kind of like if you were going to do a make one left. So I'm just picking up this horizontal bar between stitches from the front to the back. I'm going to slip my loop stitch back over to the left needle and then purl these 2 stitches together. Just helps kind of pop the loop out onto the right side and closes up that little gap. So I'll show you that one more time when we get to the next loop here. Okay, here's my next loop. So I'm going to slip it to my right needle, pick up the horizontal bar between stitches from the front to the back, just like you were doing a make one left, slip this stitch back to the left needle and purl them together. Now you don't have to do this, I just found that it made mine look a lot neater. And just work the end of the row, knit 1, purl 1, and then slip the last 2 purlwise. Makes a nice edging. And that's it. We'll keep plugging away through the 12-row repeat of the chart, which repeats 50 times until all your stitches, all but one stitch, is bound off.